Hey Magic Community, it's Tuesday, which means it's time for our first episode of our Magic Community. And today it's what's that doing? Today it's with my friend and mentor, Lord Harri. Enjoy.
So, today's guest is the incredible Lord Harri. I know that you'd love me saying that. South Wales-based magician, recent president of Cardiff Magic Society, performer, creator, lecturer, member of the Magic Circle, my mentor, my friend, and the person responsible for probably introducing me to most of the magic community. So,
Well,
welcome, Lord Harri.
thank you so much, buddy. Oh, that's amazing. No, that's
Good to
thank
have
you.
you
Thank
here.
you for that.
Um, we know each other from Cardiff Magic Society. I
Correct. Yeah.
joined there around 2.5 years ago, which is shocking because time flies, I think, to realize that that's
Mm,
2.5 years. Um,
goodness me.
at the time, you were the president of the club,
I was,
and
yeah.
you you really much you pretty much took me under your wing early days when I started there,
Mm.
which was really good, which I think we'll touch on shortly. But the
Uh,
first question I've got for you,
yeah.
I didn't give you this as any prep, but
Okay.
you've got 60 seconds, especially after the question you just
Oh,
asked your wife
goodness me.
before we started recording.
Yeah, yeah.
60 seconds as a whistle-stop tour of who is Lord Harri.
Oh, goodness
Off
me.
you go.
Oh, I don't really know. Okay. Who am I? I think I just God, I'm an energetic Duracell bunny who never has an off button on his batteries, and generally love getting really excited by magic, and therefore create a lot of silly stuff, anything that's fun for me, and I just love socializing. I think that's generally who I am.
Amazing.
With with quite a crazy background. I've done a lot of stuff. Although my dog's trying to chew my cable. Done a lot of stuff in my life, learned a lot of things, seen a lot of stuff, and I think that all leads to where I am today, allowing me to sort of take all these little bits of this duration of what this life is and channel it in a way that I feel like I can express myself the best, which is being sort of a creative, fun sort of perform entertainer.
You are absolutely that. Definitely fun. You normally leave like a trail of magic and magic
Oh,
related
mate.
stuff behind wherever you've been. But,
Well, the more mess you leave behind, the more people know you've been there, right?
that's
Like
very true,
for
very
sure.
true. So this is all about the community side of magic.
Okay,
Not really going to delve into like the performance side of stuff, but
sure.
it's about just exploring your thoughts on the community. And I think one of the big questions I've got for everybody that's going to be on here
Yeah,
is what's your first memory,
yeah.
or when did you first realize that there was a magic community out there?
Oh,
For myself, I had learned a bit of magic, but I had no idea that this kind of like huge community was out there. So
mm.
what's your first memory of realizing that that was there?
Well, there was my first memory was shortly after I started learning a couple of things. I researched how it's just really stupid in Google, like how to become a magician. All right.
Good place
And
to start.
one of the things it said was to join a club, okay, or something along those lines, or an online forum. So I just typed in like magicians online forum, and the Magic Cafe came out. It was one of the first things that popped up, and in there, I remember speaking to Harry Lorraine, rest his soul.
Wow.
Um, and I remember having a bit of beef with Harry Lorraine straight away. So that was my first introduction. I fell out with a guy that I never heard of before in my life. I don't know who this person is. And then there was another gentleman on there who was writing called Rudy Tinoco, I think his name is. And Rudy agreed to jump on a like Zoom face call thing with me. And we jumped on there, we had a little chat, and he, I think, is a pastor in a church in America somewhere. So he's one of the Christian sort of performers, and we just were chatting, and he blew me away. Right. So that was kind of like the first thing that I generally came across. Then second of all, there was. I researched sort of like magic in Wales, and the Cardiff Magic Society popped up, and I reached out to them via Facebook at the time, and they invited me to come along. So that was that step where then I actually met people in person. And then luckily for me, I had a really close friend of mine called Sean Harrington. Yes, shares my surname, not related. He had a really good friend called Nick Stein, and Nick Stein was one of the first real people that I really got introduced to, who are or is just a phenomenal magician. And I remember he said to me that there was things like Prop Dog, Alakazam, and that's the first time I ever heard of any like sort of magic companies. And he wrote down a whole list of stuff I needed to learn, and through that, that was it. That was my starting point. So I had Magic Cafe, kind of Magic Society, and I had Nick Stein, and that was when things started to grow. And then through Cardiff Magic Society, I met a guy called Magic Ash, which I think a lot of you are familiar with. And Magic Ash invited me to come to Blackpool or introduced me to Blackpool. And
Okay.
that was generally the first ever time that I was sort of involved in anything magic related. So very early on, I was already attending the convention. Um, yeah, I think that is generally, I know it's not the direct answer, but it all happened along the same sort of thread and time. It was all
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
within
it,
the first year of me really trying to sniff it out.
yeah, it's
It all came, and I found so many answers, and then all these things started to happen.
yeah, it's the same with my journey. Like obviously, I think it was the February that I joined Cardiff Magic Society, and by the November, you were taking me up to London Magic Convention, which
No, yeah,
I hadn't. I knew that Blackpool existed as a
yeah,
convention, but I had no idea that all of these other things were happening. And
mm,
being exposed to that within the first 12 months of actually, exploring magic, on
yeah.
a much bigger scale than just sitting in your bedroom sort of thing.
Oh, mate,
And that
it's the
was amazing
same.
because I met people at that convention that then I think the next one that I went to was February this year in Blackpool.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, a good 18 months between. And you introduced me in London Magic Convention to Michael Brandy.
Oh, I love Michael
Yeah,
Brandy.
great,
Oh, what a
absolutely great.
guy.
And we'd spoken very briefly on Facebook and stuff, but then in
Yeah.
Blackpool, met him, had a chat for the entire evening with him. And it was like
Mhm.
18 months had passed, but I think being in magic and speaking to so many people, that time isn't. It's not the same as like, you see a friend out and about 18 months
It,
later, you
it's
see
it's
them.
weird,
In
bro.
magic, it's like you saw them yesterday and you just carry on that relationship, that
It is
friendship.
really weird.
Great.
And well, it's because you've got so much to catch up with in such short time, right?
Yeah.
And it just generally, and also because a lot of the crossover on the paths are generally either through social media posts or they're generally for interactions for something. It's then when you do see each other, you're physically catching up and talking about those things that have happened. So it's although you're not seeing each other all the time, you know what's going on in people's lives. It's pretty it's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
It is, isn't it? Like social media is great for, keeping up to date with people anyway. But I think with
Mm,
magic, you see so much of everybody
it's even
performing,
stronger. Yeah,
what they're doing, and then you've got that as a conversation next time you see them.
for
So
sure.
you don't have that awkward kind of thing that you
Yeah.
do outside of this sort of community as well. But what we've probably touched on it a little bit, but what do you think is the best thing about the magic community?
There is so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I I think before we continue, it's really hard for me to answer questions like this because it really just depend on where I'm at, where my head is, how I feel emotionally about certain things. And you're asking me this question now, and I'm going to answer in a certain way. Someone might ask me the same question again, and I'll answer very differently. But the best thing about the magic community is generally, from my personal experience, the support you generally have, the the network that just builds. It's incredible. I mean, if I told you that countries that I have visited, I have generally been able to almost have a magician friend not only show me but guide me through these places that I'm visiting, or show me things that I normally wouldn't have seen. I'm planning a next trip away now, and I'm planning it purely based on the play on knowing that people are there that I promised I would see at some point, and I've never been to this place before, so I'm definitely gonna like start booking that. And then you reach out, and the fact that I can sit here, for example, on the weekend now when I'm not doing anything, I can speak to somebody in Australia, have somebody called in from New Zealand, have somebody called in from the States, and I'm just sat in my room and we're just chatting utter nonsense about magic. Or Oh man, I've forged some incredible friendships with people from worldwide, and I know that either I get to see them again by me visiting them, or they're coming to see me again, and these bonds, man, they're just that is incredible. I don't think you normally build friendships and relationships based on, I don't know, being in a position together. Like say for instance in school, right? You're in the same class together. You're going to spend a couple of years with each other learning, right? So that's generally what your common denominator is. But when
Hmm.
you've got magic and then your personalities click, all of a sudden now this whole thing you've got a driving force which is a passion, right? So you're not just we're in school together, we're learning. No, we have a passion which we absolutely care about, and now personality wise we get on with each other. Well, that's like the best
Yeah. It's
formula
a
for
bond,
any
isn't it?
friendship.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So
Yeah.
that part of the magic community I think is epic, and I have definitely um have had some amazing moments, like from even sourcing products or help from somebody in China who, like Gino DeVille, who's just, incredible. Like London geezer who speaks fluent Mandarin. It's just incredible. Well, I've got friends like Cyrus who help me out. It's like James Keatley, Kieran. I've got all these amazing people around me, which generally are my life friends. One of our friends, Dave, got married. I think maybe like a year ago now,
Yeah.
and I was invited to be there, and I mentioned his wedding speech of like how much I've helped him in magic, and you're thinking, dude, I only know these people because of magic and because of the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And Dave was introduced to me from Lance, and I met Lance from Cardiff Magic Society. Do you know, everything's got like this root. It's
Yeah. It's
incredible.
intertwined,
It's
isn't it? Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not one of the kind of questions, but you mentioned Kieran then. I
Mm,
know that Kieran was obviously quite a big part of your journey in magic. So in terms of like being introduced to him and
yeah.
then starting to spend some time with him, how did that come about?
Oh, mate, this is probably one of my favorite things to say to people, right? I was lucky and fortunate enough. I speak fluent German. Okay, so I'm in Berlin at the time for a job that I was working, and I managed to find a magic bar. And in this magic bar, I met a guy called Ollie Deventer, German speaking or German performing magician, right? And we start hanging out together because fellow magician from the UK, he's a magician performing in this magic bar. We start hanging out a lot, and he says something to me like, "Hey, I've got a really cool idea. I want to try something out. Why don't we both have 30 euros as a budget, and I buy a trick for you that I think you're going to like, and you buy a trick for me which you think I would like, but we don't gift it to each other. We'll learn it, and then we'll teach each other that trick, and then we'll exchange the tutorial." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he bought to the max how to produce ice cubes, right? And on there was also a lollipop production, and I bought him a splash bottle production. So we were because that's kind of who he was, he was like a street performer. So through that, then I was just blown away by once I had the tutorial, and I was just watching it, and I'm like, who is this guy? And Kieran, I reached out to Kieran then because he says in his tutorial, reach out to me, whatever. And I reached out to him, and he said, "Well, I'm going to be at Blackpool. You should come and meet me." And at Blackpool, I went to see him, and I remember like going, "Oh my God, he's a superstar." Because to me, I'm like, I'm just watching this guy on a DVD, right? Um, and he sat down with me, and he really like gave me the time, and then he said he lives not far from me. I was like, what the heck? So we start hanging out a lot. I start driving because obviously I want to learn more. And I wanted to just know everything about this guy. I was just addicted to. It wasn't so much his personality, it was more of the chaotic way it was performed. And I really could resonate with that. I really fell in love with
Yeah.
that. Just is almost like it's improv, but it's not, but it's calculated, but it's so seamlessly and so like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen sort of
Mm.
thing, and it was chaos with it as well. And it's very much how I generally am. I'm like, I imagine it, I describe it as this, like there's a tornado that just spins in, turns your whole freaking house upside down and then leaves again. And that's kind of like I've always been that way, very
and,
energetic
and
and
absolutely leaves that trail of chaos behind you.
yeah, and so I really resonated with that.
Were
And
you
when
surprised with like how willing Kieran was to, spend time with
okay,
you and give you that
I
attention?
was but looking back now, and this is one of your questions as well when you say what we've changed about the community, it kind of leads into this, right? I think Kieran at the time when we were hanging out, okay, there was a lot of things that we were talking about, and there was definitely a lot of sort of thoughts and ideas and stuff that I was telling him how I felt about maybe an idea I was working on or a trick or what something I was performing on. And he just saw at the time, because this is we're talking about like 12 years ago, right? That I was this young, hungry, passionate person who just wanted to absorb all of
Hmm.
this stuff. But very early on, kind of understood which direction I wanted to go into, and it wasn't, oh, learn, I don't know, learn just I don't know, mentalism or peak pellets or peak billet peaks or anything like that. It was very much I wanted to know a little bit about everything so I could always do something, right? And that's exactly what Kieran taught me. I was very surprised how willing he was, but at the same time, the support I think I gave him, like he could bend my ear and I was always available. And then we really bonded when he needed a driver and a translator for his Germany tour, and
Okay.
obviously speaking the fluent German and making myself available and driving, we spent a lot of time on the road together. But more than that, I loved his material, so it kind of doubled up that I could perform his material, but in what I would like to say in almost like a layman's version to sell to magicians, because ultimately we're making money on selling the products, right?
Yeah.
So I'm learning the stuff, but I'm learning it my way rather than Kieran's way, which makes it a little bit more, I think, accessible for magicians which are slightly less uh, experienced in how Kieran performs. And then there's a guy like me who's quite a novice at this point, and I'm like, oh yeah, I just do it this way, and they're like, oh, I can see me doing this, right? So that helped. Uh, to the point all the way when Kieran and literally said, you've got so many ideas, we need to do something with this. So now years later on, I I was a member or an audience member when Kieran lectured Blackpool, and obviously this year I had the absolute pleasure of him being a member
Yeah.
in or an audience member in my lecture, and I think it surprised me loads that he was so willing to share stuff, but I think he could already see where it was going rather than what does happen where people sort of latch onto you and almost suck you dry and then just disappear and then they never
Mm.
speak to you again. And then years later, they're like a little bit more known or they're getting bigger and are popular and then they turn around and they don't even like sort of acknowledge you. And that's Kieran has had that happen to him, I think. So
Okay.
once I found out about these things, it was even more, I think, rewarding that I generally was the person who didn't fall into that category. And I mean, we still speak now all the time. I mean, he rang me literally yesterday, and we have house parties together, and yeah, it's yeah, it's a very long term friendship, but that's been forged over 12 years almost. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So you touched on it there then. So what you change is that people are more willing to stick those relationships out almost, or is that what you're trying to get
I,
at?
I no, I think it's more of. And I've got to think about how I'm going to say this because I had a phone call today with somebody as well. I'm not going to mention their names, but they were saying, "Oh, everybody's out for themselves," and that was never really how I've ever been brought up. And I do think I say this a lot. Together, I think we can achieve greatness, right? And I do share that. Uh, and we are going to help each other. So why would I not want to help you now? And in years to come, when I need it, you're going to be there for me, right? That's just karma. It's just generally
Mm.
how I think. So what I change about the community is how there is this self drive of an individual who will not shy away from the pure selfishness of carving their route, regardless of who gets hurt on the way.
Mm.
And we do see this. I mean, I think it's becoming less, but we still hear these stories about so and so's done so and so over, or
Yeah.
so and so stolen this idea.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of miscommunication in the magic industry. I think there really,
Ironically, the
really is.
reason for this channel. being screwed over.
I think,
But equally, the flip side of that is the reason for this channel is to shine a light on the fact or the not talked about element of it. So
yeah, yeah,
we
for
do
sure.
hear a lot about, oh, this has happened, and so and so's done this to someone else. Well, we don't hear these stories of Kieran taking you under his wing, you
Oh
taking me
no,
on,
honestly,
you know.
there's been a lot, man. There is, I have had, I think, so much help from so many people, but because I'm willing to give just as much as how much I'm almost receiving,
Yeah,
right? There's so many things that I have had told to me, which you don't know, right? Oh God, I had a conversation with a guy called Kev Mark not too long ago, right? And me and Kev have only met each other through a group that went to Blackpool. Some I can't remember who even set the group up, but it was like this little group together, right? And we're all going to Blackpool together and we're all hanging out. And anyway, obviously I left the military and one of my mates lives in Nottingham or near close to Nottingham, and we went to visit them. He's in a really bad place. And I messaged Kev and I'm like, Kev, I'm in Nottingham. Do you fancy going a night out? I've got my ex-army buddy with me, and he was quite like in a bad shape, right? And me and Kev went, just took him out with us, and it was like I don't he might as well not been there, right? Because we were just trick slamming, getting more people involved, having groups doing this. But we pub crawled all through Nottingham, and I said to Kev the other day, it was literally when we were at the Triple C convention, and I was saying to Kev that I had no idea how much this guy was mentally suffering, how much he was struggling with just leaving the military, and how adjusting to life it was so difficult. And me and Kev had such a shine and positivity bouncing off each other and made him as part of
picked him
that,
up.
because he was our like little layman friend who was with us, but he's like one of my close mates that I've been to war with this guy. Do you know what I mean? Like he's a freaking he's like my family. And he would never speak about this problem. But him just seeing me and Kev bounce the way we were off each other, and seeing so much positivity and have so much energy in such a different world, it made him really change his focus and stuff. And I was trying to say to Kev, we actually have no idea what effect we have on individuals sometimes. And that is, yeah, man, like but you never know about this stuff. So,
No, nobody talks about it, or even
right.
when it is talked about, it's not the controversy, it's not the drama that people see in this community.
Mm,
And my experience, which I'm not gonna talk about that on this channel. Um, what it led to was just so many people that I didn't know them. Like I had
yeah,
big names in Magic. Like Craig Petty stepped in to try and resolve the issue for me. Didn't need to.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
no
for sure.
reason for him to do that. I'd met him once through Cardiff Magic Society. Um, Eric Leclerc.
Oh yeah, legend.
Like started commenting, and then he came up to me in Blackpool, or we spoke in Blackpool, which was insane to me, with
Yeah,
having seen him on YouTube and all stuff like that, to just end up chatting to him about something,
yeah. Mm.
and for him to offer advice and guidance on stuff like that was just
I
kind
I
of
think it's almost that there is generally a lot there, right? But I think the problem is with the individual sometimes, right? Because if I mean, I'm a dad. I'm going through it right now. I've got a 5-year old, right? And I say something to my child, and I'm met with this front up thing of defiance and
failure.
not believing what I'm saying, right? And I like, okay, but I've lived like on this planet 31 years longer than you. Like, listen to me. I know what I'm kind of trying to say. Like, like if you don't brush your teeth, they're gonna rot and fall out. Like, just sort it out. And I think the individual, when they get advice, that I think there's two ways why it always folds, right, and goes wrong. One of them is the individual thinks they know it all or doesn't want to listen, and therefore doesn't warrant or gives the time to the person that wants to give advice, and then the person who's delivering the advice also doesn't understand what they're saying, right? Because if or what they're asking. Because if you said to me, Ryan, for example, we've got a perfect situation here, right? You're saying to me at one point, I don't know how to progress in Magic. I'm a little bit lost. I don't know what I want to be doing, blah, blah, blah. And then I come at you with loads of random ass stuff, which doesn't make sense to at that current time. But then when I come and visit and I see how much you've got, I'm like, itemize it.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you've got, and I am going to, and then almost like the Mr. Miyagi thing, I'm telling you to learn certain things, not because I want you to master the trick, because I know it's going to teach you stuff later on, which you're going to rely on, because you're going to learn from that sleight of hand, right? or
Yeah.
from that
Yeah.
moment, or creating that part of misdirection, like double cross, for example, or an omnideck, or anything like this. It creates moments which later on
Mhm.
you're going to rely on because you know you've already done them, right? But at the moment, if I said to you, "Oh, no, no, Ryan, you just need to learn this trick," you're going to be looking at me like, "But I don't want to do that." And
Yeah.
therefore, now the advice you're actually wanting, I'm not communicating to you why I'm giving you this particular answer. You're putting your barrier up, going, "Well, I don't want anything to do with this." But
Yeah.
actually, we both want the same outcome, but we're just not clear communicating it correctly. And I think that's one of the biggest issues you have in the magic community. And also, like, who are you in order to say that my time, you're not worthy of my time? Who are you? Like, it's so wrong, right? Surely if I can just give you 5 to 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, and you're just going to talk to me about something, just be respectful and listen, right? And
Mm.
I don't have to agree with it. And quite frankly, I can go to my mate afterwards and be like, "Oh my God, that was a bit of an awkward conversation," right? And I can reflect on it with a close friend and who, but ultimately, why why would I just
Absolutely.
be like,
But it,
push you off, Nat? Not
that's the
interested.
thing. If you don't listen, you don't know what you could be missing. Ultimately, it could be that piece of advice that changes something. Even for like
Mm,
somebody really established, somebody could say
yeah,
something that makes them go, "Oh yeah, I could do something different."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No matter what everyone's experience, like,
Sure, sure.
I think something that you put me onto was the pot of jam, the 11 pence trick.
Yeah,
And,
phenomenal.
and since then, I have showed that to a couple of people at Cardiff Magic Club, some newer members, and they've gone
Yeah.
off because it is good advice to, it's not something they might not necessarily go off and perform, but that sort of advice is important for people's magic journeys, that they look at stuff
Mm,
like that to go, okay, there's, other ways of doing stuff. And, I'm not experienced in any way, but I've passed that advice on.
yeah,
Likewise, you
yeah.
you probably had advice from Kieran that you've passed on to me, and
Well, I
likewise,
mean,
and it keeps going like that. Kieran would have
the
had advice from somebody at some point.
oh well, mate, Kieran mentioned something a little while ago, which is amazing. And he was talking about the magic, the magic family tree lineage, right? And
Nice.
he was taught by Rocco Solano. So Kieran learned from Rocco. Okay. I've learned from Kieran, and Rocco learned from, and I'm not going to say it because I always get the name wrong, but it's either like Slidini or Cardini. It's one of the big legends,
Okay.
and then and you look at it, and it's like a direct descendant. And Kieran's just like, yeah, that is pretty insane. And other people have that story where they were taught from a legend,
Mhm.
like Diver and then would have taught so and so, and then that person has taught this person, and this person now is teaching some, and you're like, that is, it's really incredible to think that
Yeah.
there is that in magic,
Yeah.
and to be sort of like part of that. I mean, why would you not? You're forging your own thing. It's phenomenal, man. Like,
I think
yeah,
that's what's so important about talking to as many people as you can in the community as well,
mm,
is that you'll find people that have, you know, had different experiences and different advice given to them from different people. So the
yeah,
more
just
people that you
listen.
speak to, but it's
Listen.
about you then using that and shaping it, isn't it? But
Give everybody a time, man. Like,
yeah,
and because ultimately, and especially like, I don't know, put it this way, like if you called me and I'm driving home from somewhere, right? I mean, what time
which
am I
you
actually
often are
wasting?
when I call you.
But what time am I generally wasting, right? I'm driving anyway. Like
Yeah.
I'm wasting time. I'm just getting from A to B. I might as well fill it up with chatting to somebody, or I don't know, say we're at a convention and I'm just sitting down having a cup of tea and I'll be like, well, just join me. Like I'm already here doing something. Just
Yeah.
that
I think
what's the
most of
word
our
for it?
chats, you're either in the car or you're doing dishes. And,
Yeah.
what
Because
what better
that's
time to do
mainly my
it?
downtime. That's my
Yeah.
downtime.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think it's important then that everybody uses that time to connect with people. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be structured. It can just be those. I'm calling you up for something for 5 minutes, and then an hour later you're still on the phone to somebody
Oh yeah.
because you're enjoying it and you getting something out of it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we've got a few minutes left. But
Okay.
the last person I had for you was well, I'm going to rephrase this. So it was, what advice would you give to somebody new in the community to make
Oh
the
man, I
most of
love
it?
this. Okay.
But
Okay.
what I want,
Oh, I want to answer that one.
answer it, but what I want is almost to, if anyone watches this,
Mm.
what's the one thing that you'd like them to go and do? as well. So
Oh yeah, okay,
what's
yeah.
your advice to them? But what's one
So
action that they can take to go off and make the most of the community?
I
Apart,
wouldn't say I wouldn't say I've got lots of advice. I would say you should join this,
I was
right?
just about
Because
to
this
mention.
this is this is phenomenal.
Yeah,
And this everything you're talking about right now, Alon is legit somebody who was in this position where he's like, I want to reach out. I don't know where there's a community. What is there? So he built his own, and it's amazing, right? And
it's
there's
thrive,
generally a
doesn't it?
lot of very, very, very generous people on there who give a lot, and it's all for free, which means if you want to be part of it, you're immediately connected worldwide, right? Which is epic with a library of so much stuff available. Lectures are on there and weekly jams. So that is really amazing,
Yeah,
especially if you're coming from somewhere where maybe your nearest magic club is quite far away. Um, Join a magic club. I mean, it did wonders for me. I met some
yeah, same.
incredible people like oh, I'm gonna forget his name, like Taylor Morgan, right? Who now just happens to be one of the most busiest stage performers with Becky, right? And them two performing together all the time. You're like, I remember meeting Taylor when he was like 17. Right? And it's like you grow together, so you never know who you're gonna meet in the club. But also go in with a really open mind, right? Because I think when you start learning magic and you join this community or you're exposed to it, there is a lot of negativity, there's a lot of hate, but generally it's like I said, I think it's for lack of communication or personal skills, people's skills to generally communicate the actual thing you want to say. I would also say not everything needs to be said. So don't bite about everything because you don't have to. Sometimes it doesn't matter if somebody's got a disagreement. You don't always have to join on and comment on something because if it gets read the wrong way or perceived the wrong way, then you're the person that's going to
Yeah,
be like hung out to dry for that one. Um, be very open-minded, I would say. Just think about certain actions and ultimately what is it that you want to get out of it because by by putting the focus of your level you want to achieve, you are going to pick up so many people in the way that want to push and support you as the same as you're going to push and support them. It
yeah,
is incredible, and the friendships that do forge. I mean, I'm living probably a really friend rich life with a lot of magic friends that I can share a lot of with. And some of the knowledge you get from people that I can call Shane now, another friend of mine who's just recently come into my life, and the amount of stuff he's actually done for me in such a short time, just because he's just enthusiastic about projects as just as much, you know.
yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
it's just insane. So I would say try and give everybody a little bit of your time. Obviously, don't take the mick, right? But try and give everybody a little bit of time. Ultimately, if it's bad advice, I think you're going to know it's bad advice. And if it's not right for you, then just say, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time talking to me. Like, rather than just going, yeah, I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. And I don't know, just try and be the person that, oh, hello. Just
Hello,
try and be
Ronnie.
the person who, it's just how you would want to be treated, right?
Yeah,
I think that's yeah, it's not hard. It really ain't hard, but it's just because it's such a global scale, and you do have some really strong characters because it is magic, and magic does have these crazy personalities. There will be clashes, there really, really will be, but
yeah,
you don't always have to be the instigator or adding the fuel to the fire.
yeah.
I think you don't have to. You can be
And
your own
you
person.
you can also, rather than the fuel to the fire, you can help resolve it. By not being public about things, but actually, trying to get involved and be that middleman that
Yeah,
can settle things, which I've had experience of for people
yeah.
doing that for me, which is great. Absolutely, Magic Island Society. Everybody needs to go and join that. I've dipped in and out of it for 12 months or so, but one of their members, Blaze, saved my ass.
Blaze.
Basically, saved my ass
I
in
know
Blackpool,
Blaze.
where I'd left it too late to get my little boy a bracelet. And they found the very last one that was there and picked it up when I was in
No way.
in
Blaze
the
lectured
lecture.
at Blackpool as well, didn't he? Like a couple of years back. He's in New York, isn't he?
No, no, not that place.
Oh,
No,
different Blaze then.
no, different place.
Oh,
Different.
okay.
I'm hoping I got the name right, but yeah, I'm sure it was place. But
Dude, I had my lecture got saved in Blackpool by an Australian individual I met through the magic community.
yeah,
Um, yeah, just as much. Oh,
amazing,
goodness me. Yeah, because
amazing.
I needed a party popper. And
Yeah, of
he
course you
rang me
did.
say
Because
he rang
to
me.
cause more mess. And I
He
feel
rang.
like we've come full circle and we've got a couple of minutes left, so I will
Yeah.
we'll wrap it up now. But thank you very much for this. Hopefully people will find this sort of stuff useful to listen to. And your advice at the end, everyone go and join Magic Island Society because you will meet people through there that, they'll branch out. You'll
Mm.
speak to them outside of that and make friendships. And I think that's the important thing with this is there are people out there that are willing to spend time with you,
Oh,
and,
for sure.
and
Yeah.
and chat to you about things. You've given up your time for me. Other people have done that for you, and I think that that keeps rolling on. And I
Oh,
think that's
absolutely.
what's really important.
Always
But
does. Yeah,
thank
man.
you very much, Lord Harry.
You're
We'll
welcome
speak to you
anytime.
soon.
All right, Ryan. No
Cheers,
worries.
buddy.
Thank you so much. See you in a bit.
Nice one.